Make sure you look good. Okay. Props for later. Alright, this is my Zenith. And guess what? I also did a full-length mockumentary screenplay. Mine follows a group of amateur ghost hunters hunting down a ghost in one of their houses, while the ghost occasionally steals their camera to record his own interviews. To prepare for this project, what I did, I read Save the Cat. If you're a senior, you'll probably recognize this book. We read about the different story archetypes like Golden Fleece, Monster in the House, that sort of thing. I read it in full. One of the things that really helped me out was the beat sheet. Almost like the hero's journey, except what this does is it goes step by step, and it actually lines out like how many pages each section should be. It goes pretty in depth, and it has like sections following it that go in even more in depth into each step. And as you can see, I followed this very closely. One of the other things that it talked about was having like how to write your antagonist to make it seem like there's some sense of urgency, but it also can't come on too quickly. It advised against something it called like glacier antagonists. So I think I found what I'm going to write my next screenplay about. All of that. One of the last tips, this one just stood out to me so much that I can't not talk about it. It's a little niche, but it was called Pope in the Pool. This is a term coined by the author himself. It refers to a screenplay he wrote. I don't know if it ever actually got turned into a movie, but I think it was kind of like a heist movie, and it started out with a bunch of like exposition getting explained, but while they're doing that, it takes place in the Vatican, and you see the Pope doing laps in the Vatican pool. So there's this exposition going on. Exposition. Typically just don't want to dump that right onto an audience. But because they have this thing going on in the foreground that's so distracting, that's like, the Pope can swim? He has other clothes other than the robe? There's a pool in the Vatican? Is it holy water? What? They're allowed to do this sort of like exposition dump in the background. And like as I this is one of the things that I've like seen in other movies where it's like, you know, there's something funny going on in the background, and then you hear the voices talking, and it's like, oh, Pope in the pool. So to develop my own plot for this, I essentially had point A, how it started, and point B, how it ended. I had a couple points in the middle of like how I was going to get to those, but for the most part, I just kind of, like I had the characters, a little bit about them, and then like I just started writing, and kind of like as I went along writing, I would then like go back to, you know, my beat sheet, my character sheets, and just like write out, like go even more in depth to them. Like for example, this is my character sheets when I started out. Half of them are just blank. This is them when I ended. It also helped to sort of with the pacing is to break it down act by act. We've talked about how, you know, your first act should be shorter than your second act, and your third act should be about the same as your first act. It helped to kind of like go and say like, okay, the first act is like 15 pages, and so on and so forth. And that really helped to figure out like, this is where I need to add more, this is where like I'm good. And so my process for writing was just something I did to kind of like, since I have trouble sitting down and focusing for long amounts of time, I did writing sprints where I basically just throw on some headphones, set a timer for 15 or 30 minutes, write completely uninterrupted, and then when that timer goes up, it's this funny little trick where your brain kind of gets into it, so you can just kind of keep going, and then the pressure is kind of off there, like, oh yeah, I can kind of go, you know, check my email, look at some memes, because I've already done this time. And I do that like every hour some days. I did so much writing, like the kind of almost a turning point in my attitude toward this project was the night before spring break ended, where I said that I was going to write 25 pages and I had only written 5. I sat down that day and wrote 20 pages in one day. It drove me a little insane, but I did it. And after that, whenever I was like looking like my screenplay, oh, it's not long enough, I'm not gonna get it done, I would just remember, I can do 20 pages in one day. I was at one point thinking, oh, I only have 7 more pages to go. It's not that big a deal. Anyway, I would like to offer these memes to illustrate how I felt. I actually had these all open in just separate tabs right next to my screenplay the entire time. There was one week where I was tempted to submit these instead of any progress that I made. But yeah, overall, that brings me to my final product. It is 65 pages, over 12,000 words. Big. Probably one of the biggest projects I've written ever. Definitely one of the stories that like is complete. Like it has characters that have arcs and like complex plots. It's something that like it's nowhere near perfect right now. 65 pages is pretty short for a feature-length screenplay. And the reason I put that final product in quotations is that, like, this is what I've done for the Zenith, but this is something that I want to go back and to edit and to fix, just because I enjoy the story. And I need something to show, so, audience participation, anyone? I have a section of my screenplay here, and I need 6 people.
Can I be the ghost, please?
Bright can be the ghost.
Yes!
I also need, I also need man, woman, old woman.
I want to be man.
Old woman.
I want to be woman.
Old woman.
You are woman.
Thank you.
You are old woman. We still need a Jackie and a screen directions.
I can be one. I can be the screen director.
Screen directions and Jackie.
So,
the context for this scene, this is still pretty early on in the first act. This is after the main crew has been introduced. One of the crew members has accidentally left the camera in the basement, and the ghost has decided to take advantage of this.
should I start?
Yep.
Okay. Interior basement day. A pair of pale hands fidgets with the camera, partially blocking its view. They eventually move away to reveal a ghost sitting before the camera. He appears to be about the same age as the crew, about mid-20s, but his clothes look much older. He clears his throat.
Hello. Is that a good start? I never know how to start these things. My name is, well, it's been quite a while, so I can't exactly recall. I believe it started with a T, maybe an M?
The ghost looks lost in thought for a moment before shaking his head.
But that's besides the point. I've been haunting this house for what, 250 years now?
The ghost trails off again.
Has it really been that long? Time is so hard to keep track of when you're... No, it's not important. 250 years is a long time, and it can get a little lonely. But I've been busy. Not that anyone has been polite enough to acknowledge it.
Interior kitchen morning. A man is at the kitchen table, patting his pockets.
Why did I leave them last?
A set of keys are at the other end of the table. The ghost stands in the corner of the room and grins at the camera. The keys begin to slide towards him.
There they are.
He takes the keys and rushes out of the room. The ghost looks directly into the camera. Interior basement afternoon. A young woman is in the basement sorting through boxes. She's talking on the phone.
Yeah, the move went well. It's taking a little while to get settled, but I think we'll...
While she blathers on, the ghost is at the top of the stairs and swings the door shut loudly. The woman lets out a gasp.
Sorry about that. There's a pretty bad draft in here. Haven't been sleeping well. So I'm a little jumpy. If I stay up any longer, I might start thinking I see a ghost.
The ghost stares directly into the camera. Interior living room day. An old woman sits on the couch. She has thick glasses and a book in her lap. The ghost stands behind her, eyes wide, face grim.
Oh, you do not belong here. Get out while you still can. Get out!
The old woman looks over her shoulder at the ghost.
Finally come to visit your grandma. It's so nice to see you again.
The ghost looks directly into the camera. Interior basement day. The ghost looks very weary.
250 years is a very long time, so it's nice to have Nice to finally have someone who acknowledges my efforts.
Jackie is alone in her kitchen, humming to herself as she pulls a pan out of the cabinet. She is about to put it on the stove when the lights flick off. She yelps and whips around, brandishing the pan in self-defense.
Who's there? Show yourself.
The lights turn back on. She drops the pan and runs out of the kitchen. The pan is left clattering on the tile floor. The ghost, suddenly appearing in the corner of the room, looks into the camera and grins. Interior basement day.
And now that I've finally found someone who really appreciates my work, I am going to make her life a living hell.
You want them back?
Souvenirs!
Hey, which junior wants it?
I want it.
You're not a junior.
I'm a junior now.
He's a first year.
Okay, Sarah.
Yes.
Is more or?
This is the end.
Okay, questions for Sarah.
Yes.
I've noticed that you really like doing this thing where it's like, oh, finding like loopholes in the writing rules. Like, oh, you can't do this unless something else is happening here. You did that a lot with our screenplay as well.
Yeah. Listen, you gotta know the rules before you can break them. But once you know them, they're like eggs. You can throw them against houses.
It's just like the party side.
Yes.
Did any of your characters like take inspiration off of other characters?
There was. I'm not sure if I did it. Well, first of all, I heavily project onto every character I write. So I think just like all the characters get a little bit of my insecurities. There is also one character that I just really like the archetype of like the sort of like quiet character that like gains confidence, especially if like gaining confidence means going completely off the rails. Like if anyone's ever seen the TV show for What We Do in the Shadows, Guillermo, he goes from being, kind of a pushover, and then he just starts murdering people.
Woo!
Yes.
Girl boss.
I just really like the word. I like your word choice. Sorry, it's just a lot of there's like very specific words in here that I was like, I know that word, but I would not have thought to use that word. And now that I always use this word, I like this word.
Your writing style is very comedic.
It is very comedic.
I want more.
Well, good news. There is 65 pages of this in my Dropbox. I'm also planning, like, as I go back and, like, make edits to it, I will probably just, like, drop more versions of the script into it, just, like, read here. So, yeah, keep an eye out. Maybe I'll start a mailing list if there's interest. Yes, right.
Are you gonna try to film a scene?
I realized through in my narrative project that, pre-production, great, yes, our narrative project. Pre-production, great, wonderful, you love it. Production, everything's real and it hurts and it kills you. Production hurts,
Post-production.
so probably not, yes.
If you do,
Mhm.
can I be man?
Can I still be
Yes.
Ghost?
You can still be Ghost.
Yay!
Any other questions? All right.
Okay, thanks, Sarah.
I'm still on camera duty.